In September 2015, an intrepid group of travellers embarked on the TUCO China study tour. Travelling across China, they set out to discover the secrets of Chinese culture, universities, food and student life.
I didn't expect to come to China and have French pastries and high tea.
I'm not sure what this is, but I am going to touch it.
Any perception about a standardised form of Chinese food you can chuck out the window, because we've had all manner of foods in all manner of different forms of presentation.
I don't think we could ever have a trip so interesting and so exciting.
Well, you'll see when we get in there, it's mad, but it's very nice.
If I had to describe Beijing in one sentence, I think I would say it's an extremely vibrant, diverse and exciting city. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be.
Beijing is the capital of China and one of the most populated cities in the world. Host of the 2008 Olympic Games, it's packed with amazing architecture, fantastic food and lots of traffic.
The bus journey was like wide-eyed kids really were going, oh my god, it's amazing, we're in Beijing. Then you see the big massive skyscrapers and you go into the traffic and it's just 6 lanes of mental traffic where there's no law.
So just be careful getting across the road.
It's just go where you want to go, and if you manage to stop in time then you're okay, because there is some close calls sometimes.
One of the first stops for the group is a cookery class at the Black Sesame Kitchen. It quickly becomes apparent that Chinese food in the UK is quite different from the cuisine here in China.
We prepared 3 Beijing typical dishes. There was a pork dish, a lamb stir fry and a sweet and sour cabbage dish. And the Chinese style of food, it's totally different from the UK. Each region has its own style of cooking.
When you're in Britain you just think, that's Chinese food, that's what we're going to replicate. Very naive, it's basically Canton style. And it's probably not anything the Chinese would eat anyway, because it's obviously not what they do.
One of the things that illustrated was the gap that there is between Chinese cooking techniques and British cooking techniques, and got me thinking about how very difficult that is going to be to bridge with the best will in the world in trying to cater better for Chinese students.
So from that point of view I've learned that, right, okay, I need to look into the regions, I need to find out where most of our students are coming from, and then just have a good dialogue with them and find out exactly what it is that they're looking for.
To understand more about the different Chinese regions and the different dishes, the group need to start from the beginning and look at the basic ingredients of Chinese cuisine. And where better to do that than the local market.
There was an array of various things in there, from black chickens to frogs in tanks to turtles to fish jumping out of tanks. Walking around there I saw things that I would never normally see anywhere else.
Yes, the hygiene standards weren't perhaps as great as we're used to in the UK, but I have to say the quality of the product, the diversity of the products and produce that was there, and so fresh, was amazing.
And our tour guide told us at the end of the tour that it would be closing down within the next 6 months because the Chinese government want to build retail blocks on there. So a great place, but quite a sad ending really.
We're stood here on the Great Wall of China. You can see Beijing in the very far distance, all the towers, because that's what 70 kilometres away is, and you can still see the towers, they're so big. It's absolutely amazing.
No trip to China will be complete without a visit to the Great Wall. Despite not actually being visible from space, the official length is over 13,000 miles. That's 6 times the length of the United States. It's hard not to be impressed.
It's just one of these places I just can't believe I've actually just stood on the Great Wall of China. I never thought I'd be here. This whole trip just keeps getting better and better. I think it's the trip that keeps giving and giving, and I just don't know what's going to come next, but it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
The gastronomic discovery continues as the group eat at a local fish restaurant, where you really have to work for your lunch. Can't ask for fresher fish. And then it's back to the busy city and onto the Heidi Lau hot pot restaurant, where the menu is somewhat surprising.
What we got here, we got some duck blood, some calves innards. What else we got?
Duck tongue. Oh, you'll be a bit chatty afterwards.
We think there's a bone in there somewhere.
Have you ever eaten slugs? No, because that's what it tastes like.
Chinese people like their food spicy, but for some it's a bit too much.
I think the air conditioner's broken, I think that's what it is.
I've got it dangling.
Put it in the pepper.
It's nice! Yeah, dip it in the pepper.
Are you filming? Because I was going to swear then, so we're going to KFC.
Haidi Lao Hot Pot is a popular chain of restaurants in China with over 80 sites across the country. The group get a chance to chat with the manager and discover that Haidi Lao value their success on staff satisfaction above all else. They also operate a system where staff performance is continually monitored and pay levels can go up and down each month depending on performance. And the restaurant's most popular dish? Well, it's the duck blood, of course.
I don't think I will ever eat duck blood again as long as I live. I did try it though, I did try it.
It's the final day in Beijing and the group get a chance to visit 2 of the city's universities to find out what life is like for Chinese students. The first stop is state-funded Beijing Normal University. With over 20,000 students, it's one of the oldest and most prestigious universities in China. The breakfast service spans 4 floors, with dishes from all over the country, with most students seeking out the cuisine from their home region.
The quality of the catering there was more on a mass scale, so we saw some absolutely huge woks, and the catering manager was explaining to us they're having to downsize that to keep it sort of fresher, give more choice, more the sort of communist type look that I was expecting of China all over, lots of just stainless steel, white tables and all the rest.
The amount of dishes on the menus, you know, is quite staggering, 100 different choices every day. Lots of different areas serving lots of different food. People want the choice in China and they certainly offer it.
Despite the vast amount of choice on the menu, on average a main dish only costs between 30 and 50 pence. So far the tour has been non-stop, with the group typically getting less than 6 hours sleep each night.
Thank you.
Some people are finding it harder than others to keep up with the pace.
I was unavoidably detained in my room through reasons I do not wish to disclose. How's that? Edit that.
Louise joins the group just in time for the tour around Peking University. Consistently ranked as one of the top universities, the peaceful campus is on the site of a former imperial garden. The lunch service is spread over 3 floors, again featuring a range of regional dishes from all over China.
It appears that they charge according to how many plates you take and what colour those plates are. But you've got rice and you've got meat, you've got vegetables, and the dumplings down there look absolutely superb.
Not only are the dishes high quality, but there's a lot of choice.
Absolutely staggered by the catering offering in Peking University. All those dishes and all those people in such a small space, really just outstanding what they're doing.
I mean, there must be 1,000 choices, I thought, without any exaggeration, and different combinations that you can bring together. The other thing that was quite surprising, though, is the small amount of rice that seems to be being consumed. Lots of vegetables, lots of meat, but very little in the terms of rice, bread, pasta.
Tucked away at the back of the canteen is a Western food counter, selling Chinese interpretations of dishes like fish and chips and pizza.
And it looked almost like a sort of cheesy, pineapple-y cake. The authenticity of the food, I think, is key that we take back, that we make sure that whatever we do it really, really well.
It's safe to say that Beijing has taken everyone by surprise. From the food to the culture, it seems that China is far more complex and diverse than anyone had expected. Nothing makes this more clear to the group than a visit to the high-end Sanlitun village shopping district.
Gorgeous luxury, high-end, right here in the middle of a communist country that I thought everybody was going to be marching around in straight lines wearing denim dungarees. I mean, the people arriving were turning up in beautiful, huge cars, chauffeur-driven, being met by doormen. It's just like being in New York or somewhere, to be honest.
I didn't really expect this level of newness and modernity and money, I suppose. And I feel a bit stupid myself for being so naive. It's a cracking city. It's certainly enlightened my outlook on things and how I actually would look at Chinese people as a whole.
As the group's time in Beijing comes to an end, there's time for one final landmark, something everyone has been keen to see.
We're going to Tiananmen Square and we're going to have a look around there and things like that, and then we'll get on the bus and go home eventually.
Tiananmen Square is one of the largest squares in the world and has been the site of numerous political events and student protests. When the group arrive, it appears that access to the square is closed.
Everything is being closed off for some reason, so we're trying to break in.
Thankfully, Matt decides against a break-in attempt and the risk of TUCO's first international incident. The group still get a chance to walk around outside the square, which is heavily guarded by police officers, bright lights and security cameras. It's the last chance to soak in the atmosphere of this amazing city.
Beijing is absolutely mad, crazy, incredible city. It's like nowhere else, food-wise, culture-wise, that I've ever been. Absolutely spectacular.
Totally surprised at how it is here. What we've seen has been really westernised. Some of the shopping centres that you walk past, it's not at all as I would expect it. It really is a wonderful, wonderful city.
If we can give a warm welcome and make silly little steps like putting chopsticks out as well as knives and forks, putting spoons out, so that people can eat comfortably and feel comfortable. We felt a little uncomfortable trying to use chopsticks. What does a Chinese person feel like trying to use a knife and fork? So, little steps, we can make big, big differences.
Before the group move on to Guangzhou, they must say a fond farewell to Matt, who's sadly been voted off by the other members of the group. Or maybe he just needs to get back to work in the UK. Either way, everyone is sorry to see him leave.
So sadly, after today, this is my last day. I'm flying back to the UK. The group are going to go on. I think there will be a lump in my throat because I've met some really nice people. We've had huge fun together, and at the same time, we've learned so much from one another. I'm gutted that I'm not going to the next sections because I think things are going to be a little different, but lots of things I've learned already.
Beijing has been an eye-opening, action-packed experience for the group, and a great introduction to China in general. However, there's no time to rest as it's straight onto a plane for the 3-hour flight south to the next destination on the tour. Guangzhou is the third largest city in China, with a population of over 40 million. It's a busy, ever-expanding city and has a hot, humid subtropical climate. But aside from dealing with the rising temperature, the group have to first get to grips with the city's name.
Yeah, we're going to be treated hopefully to a lovely meal tonight in Guangzhou.
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 We're in Guangzhou. I hope I've said that right.
Good job, Matthew. The first stop in Guangzhou is a taste of Hunan, a restaurant where the welcome was unlike anything anyone had experienced before.
It was like all the locals had come out, you know, all dancing around, leading us down to the restaurant. It's really nice, really impressive when we got there.
A warm welcome, brightly coloured costumes, and the promise of audience participation gets the group wondering about what could happen next.
I've got a feeling I might be doing some dancing.
Matthew's intuition proves to be spot on.
And the staff have had us eating yak, drinking mushroom sake, and having us singing and dancing in between the courses. It's been an amazing night, and I think I've never been made to feel so welcome anywhere in my life.
It's all about the hosting, welcoming your guests, being pleased to see them. I mean, I'm not sure whether I could get my catering staff to carry tables in their tea, but we'll see what we can do.
The group are joined by guests from the catering industry, including the winner of Chinese MasterChef. After dinner and dancing, the group get a chance to chat to the guests to find out what Chinese students would like to see on menus back in the UK.
They said if we could supply oyster sauce and soy sauce and chilli as well, would be something the students would want.
When they were talking about the top 5 store-cupboard items, pork, rice, flour, oil, chilies, things that we carry on the shelf, I think what we need to do is just consider what we do with those ingredients.
It's been a whirlwind first day in Guangzhou, so the group get an early night ahead of another busy day tomorrow. Actually, they went to karaoke. The group are up early and off to explore Sun Yat-sen University, home of the world's fastest supercomputer. The visit starts with presentations and an informative Q&A session.
They were asking us about the facilities management, how we deal with ours. Would it be worthwhile putting a coffee shop in a library, for example, and unanimously they all said yes. So they're kind of gleaning little bits of information and taking tidbits we were able to provide, as well as us doing the same from them. And I think it was quite reassuring to know that we're not alone in the countries we know now through TUCO, but also generally through the world. So yeah, we probably work together with these people and try and help each other out as best we can.
It's really important for us to collaborate internationally, and I think it'd be great if we could have Chinese-style TUCO party come to England and look at exactly what we do, because there's a perception that we're all about fish and chips and roast beef, and we're not. It's been great to see their food, and I think we could definitely look at what we can do different in England to suit our international markets.
The food offer at Sun Yat-sen is similar to Beijing. Lots of different dishes and lots of students to feed. There's over 50,000 students here and also over 50,000 members of staff.
So it appears that not many of the students go out. They all eat in. It's so fabulous value. Why would you want to go anywhere else? They have such choice that we don't have. And they're quite surprised when they asked me earlier how many choices I give my students in halls. And when I say 5, they're sort of really quite horrified.
That's the menu on the window. That's to tell them what's underneath each window.
Had all the different regional dishes. It was very like serving hatch style. The Chinese universities are geared up to get the students in, get them fed, give them the food that they want and out again.
The campus tour comes to an end with an insight into Chinese student accommodation. Rooms can be for anywhere between 2 and 8 students, and are certainly not quite what students can expect back in the UK. But it's been an interesting insight and yet another warm welcome.
The hosts have been absolutely magnificent. They've come out in numbers and really given us an informative and very educational day.
The afternoon sees the group visit Lingnan University, a private institution founded in 1888 by a group of American missionaries.
I'm so happy to have you all here in China, in Guangzhou.
After a relaxing introduction with tea and cakes, the group head out on a tour of the campus.
Inside of the lake, we have an island. It's a very small island. We call it Taiwan Island. You know, there are some issues, I'm not...
On campus, there's a street filled with shops, all run by the students themselves. It's part of their education, and although many ventures fail within 6 months, they're allowed to keep any profit that is made.
They can gain a lot of experience here. They can work here, they can start their own business here, they can do whatever they want. I'm kidding, not whatever.
At Birmingham, we often get asked, specifically of Chinese students, if they can set up their own stalls and sell their own goods, ingredients, set up cafes. So perhaps it's something we've been needing to think about because it happens in their homeland. So perhaps we could take that model and work with them, and then we may get more support of Chinese students to come and try our food.
Sadly, it's time for the group to say goodbye to Guangzhou and continue on their journey.
I think if there's one abiding message that's come over, or two perhaps, it's one that authenticity is everything for the Chinese in terms of the food, and secondly, they really like the taste of home. And so if you offer in British universities certain sorts of authentic foods, it will make your students very happy because it will remind them of their life and happiness back home, and hopefully make them more happy and productive while they're studying in the UK.
In 1980, Shenzhen was a small fishing village of 5,000 people. Today, it's one of the fastest growing cities in China with a population of over 18 million. Shenzhen is also where many of China's most successful tech companies call home. The group take a tour around the headquarters of Tencent, which is a bit like Facebook and Google combined. It's also the home of popular social media apps QQ and Chinese favourite WeChat. Everyone's amazed with what the app can do.
It's just endless the amount of things you can do with it. You can order taxis through it, you can book hotel rooms through it.
The map feature was amazing. You point it at a building and your friends know where you are and they can come and meet you. It's like Google Maps, but even more scary.
And everybody in China is using WeChat as a platform to communicate and do business.
So from a company worth over $200 billion to something a bit simpler. Congee, one of China's most loved and versatile dishes.
I know they add lots of different things that can be sweet, savoury, and congee is something actually that we should be introducing at home for our Chinese students, so perhaps that'll give us some good ideas.
Congee is a staple of Chinese cuisine. It's a simple rice-based porridge-type dish, often flavoured with meat, fish or vegetables.
It was absolutely fantastic. It was nothing really expected. The flavours were excellent.
It'd be interesting to take congee back to the UK. I think if you do specialist congee like they do in this restaurant, it would be popular across all of our students. Really very tasty, very healthy, very clean.
It seems like everyone is a congee convert. The next stop is down to the harbour side, where the group are treated to a fountain and light show. Before settling down to sample the local cuisine.
We've come to a Sichuan restaurant, very tasty food, but if you take too much of the pepper, it really does blow your brains out.
The spice proves too much for Scott, who breaks out into a full rendition of the address to a haggis.
So imagine this is the haggis, okay? Fair fall your honest sonsy face. Great chieftain o' the pudding race. See yonder labour dich, cut them in, pull them out. The haggis.
From Scotland to France, the group visits a local bakery and cake shop serving some of the finest pastries in the country.
I didn't expect to come to China and have French pastries and high tea. Cakes were lovely, little bite-sized macaroons and little layered cakes and strawberry tea and ice cream.
The patisserie also has its own baking school, where students can learn everything from cake making basics to fine desserts. As ever, China is full of surprises. It's the final night in Shenzhen and the group head to Seafood Street. Filled with fishing boats, lobster pots and fish tanks, this seems like the go-to place for fresh fish in the local area.
I'm not sure what this is, but I am going to touch it.
Things are just as lively in the restaurant.
We are going fishing for our dinner in a local restaurant.
There's a wide variety of live seafood to choose from. It seems the Chinese want their seafood seriously fresh.
I want to get some clams, crabs looking good, and the giant prawns.
After dinner, the group have a chance to catch up on the trip so far and share their thoughts on China as a whole.
For me, it was Sun Yat-sen University. I think that one day in itself, I could go back to work and justify the trip.
The group head home for a relatively early night. Tomorrow, Hong Kong. Hong Kong is one of the most populated areas on the planet, with over 6,500 people per square kilometre. It has long been at the centre of international trade and finance.
I'm going to get lost in Hong Kong. Quite looking forward to it.
Almost immediately you felt it was different from mainland China. Suddenly there was a lot more advertising on the buildings were much higher, they looked much more modern. It isn't typical of the rest of China.
The group's first stop is the University of Hong Kong.
Thank you for coming to Hong Kong, and this is a very warm welcoming here.
It seems they face many of the same problems that UK universities do.
What we've found is their international students, especially the Chinese, don't particularly like the food here either, even though it's only a few miles away from the Chinese border. I think the Chinese people are very set in their dining habits. We either have to go with it or we do lose their custom.
The University of Hong Kong operates a contract catering system, and around the campus are many familiar brands.
It was about the direction we should not go rather than the direction we should go. They seem to have lost the wonderful food we'd seen in other parts of the country.
China's food is real, fresh, always well cooked, always well presented. Hong Kong is Western, slightly stodgy, slightly blasé. It's really been a lesson and an eye-opener for what we've seen and what we've had.
Lots of food for thought from the University of Hong Kong, and not all of it positive. But the group still have much of the city to explore.
We're now in the central area of Hong Kong Island. We're going to walk up this road for a bit and we get on the moving escalators.
The food in Hong Kong is mostly Cantonese style, although it's not exactly like being back in the UK.
We're at the Look You Tea House and we've got the amphibious selection. So we've got poached frog, deep fried frog with fish lips. We've also just been told there's no beer available on the menu either. I think that's gone down worse than the fish lips.
Hong Kong is unique in China and operates with a higher degree of autonomy from the mainland. under the principle of one country, two systems. To some, the difference between China and Hong Kong are unexpected.
You could be in London with the heat turned up. It's just fantastically rich, massive designer brands everywhere.
China, the people were more friendly, more welcoming, more appreciative, whereas I think here in Hong Kong, it's almost the service standard is very similar to London in some of the high parts of London.
A marked difference between the 5 miles between Shenzhen and getting into Hong Kong. You're not really in China anymore when you're in a Western country with Chinese people. And that goes down to service, food, attitude of the people. I think we all as a group found it disappointing for that fact. We were then put in right in the eyes of a Chinese student coming to a Western university.
It's been a busy, action-packed couple of weeks, but the trip is coming to an end. The group travelled to the Peak Tram, which takes them to the top of Victoria Peak for some stunning views of the city and a chance to reflect on the trip as a whole.
We've always spoken about China as this single entity and our Chinese students as a single entity. And after doing that trip, I'll never talk about them in that context again.
Any perception about a standardised form of Chinese food you can chuck out the window, because we've had all manner of foods in all manner of different forms of presentation.
When we go back, we need to think about where our students actually come from, what part of China, what is it about that province or that subculture that our students in particular actually want.
And I think one of the things that we need to do and need to take back is how we recreate some of these cuisines in the UK. We can't respond to every regional cuisine in China, but there are some key dishes. The challenge for us is how we recreate them in an authentic way.
We can definitely do it. We have all the produce here in the UK. It's just a matter of using it properly. So yeah, we can definitely go forward, and it's an exciting time.
The trip's been really useful for me. It lets you know what the students are looking for in terms of food. Small things like the food needs to be warm for the Chinese students, you know, that you can take away.
Simple things like the Chinese wanting warm water. We have actually resisted that in the past, and we just can't. We need to give the Chinese students warm water to have with all their food, because that is what they all do here.
I've seen Chinese students in British universities looking extremely baffled by the food, and it's now quite clear why that is.
The food that we expected to find in China isn't the food that we've experienced. It's more lightly cooked, more flavoursome, and the fact that we've had very little rice. I mean, we've probably eaten less rice and less noodles here than you'd probably eat back in the UK.
We started 2 weeks ago with spicy Chinese food, which we'd struggled with. But as we came into Hong Kong and we came back into a more westernised Cantonese style of cuisine, we found it a bit bland as well.
I think when Chinese students come over to the UK, they're nervous. They're in a strange country, that we're giving them strange foods, we're giving them strange service. Everything is different than they expect. So to have something from home hopefully would make them feel more reassured and would be happy, you know, make them feel comfier about being in the surroundings they're in.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Bill and Ginger have been absolutely superb in looking after us. It's been a life-changing experience. It's been great to see what we've seen.
I just couldn't have asked for anything better, and we've seen things that I didn't even know they were there to see. So it's been great.
I'd just like to thank Bill Brogan and Ginger and obviously TUCO for letting me have the most wonderful experience ever. I don't think we could ever have a trip so interesting and so exciting.
I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Sorry, Bill, go on.